There's a truth we don't like to admit. Most of us think we are harder to read than we actually are. We believe our confidence is convincing. Our silence is mysterious. Our jokes keep people from looking too closely. But to those who pay attention, we were never hidden. They noticed the way your laugh lingered just a second too long when you felt out of place. The way your voice tightened when you insisted you were fine. The way you rushed to fill silence because stillness felt like exposure. You weren't unreadable. You were simply hoping no one was paying close enough attention. And here's the secret. Someone already did. Someone has read you, not with words, but with patience. They noticed the cracks in your composure, the small inconsistencies you thought were invisible. Because being seen isn't dramatic. It's quiet, almost surgical. The best observers don't announce what they see. They just never forget it. This isn't about mind tricks or body language hacks. It's about the deeper level where truth leaks in tone, in hesitation, in contradiction. And once you start seeing it, you realize something unsettling. People have been reading you all along. Masks we wear. Most people think their personality is natural, but much of what we present is not authenticity, it's armor. We become palatable versions of ourselves, shaped not by who we are, but by what once hurt us. From childhood, we learn the cost of honesty. Cry too loudly, and you're too sensitive. Ask too many questions, and you're difficult. Shine too brightly, and suddenly you're arrogant. So we adapt. We build masks. Not because we're fake, but because we're afraid. But masks always leak. They slip through a clenched jaw, a forced smile, an over-explained story. They reveal themselves in the pauses people rush to cover, or the way a subject change feels just a little too sharp. Real identity doesn't live in polished words. It hides in contradictions. The one who claims they don't care what others think checks every mirror twice. The person who swears they're independent aches to be chosen. The loudest critic is usually fighting the very flaw they can't accept in themselves. Patterns aren't random. They're biographies repeating themselves.
Lessons in seeing. When you begin to watch people this way, the world stops being confusing. What once looked like arrogance becomes insecurity. What felt like rejection turns into self-protection. What used to sting simply makes sense. Here are a few truths worth holding on to. Everyone wears a mask, not to lie, but to survive. The louder the confidence, the more fragile the self. Silence speaks louder than speech. The hesitation, the sigh, the deflection, these are confessions without words. Criticism is autobiography. When someone attacks, they're often describing what they fear in themselves. Exaggeration reveals insecurity. Every "I never" and "I always" is a cover for doubt. Childhood doesn't vanish. It replays in our habits, our fears, our need for approval. The point isn't to use these insights as weapons. It's to stop mistaking the mask for the person and to stop confusing other people's survival strategies with your own worth. The shift. Something changes when you truly understand this. You stop reacting to the performance and start asking what wound it protects. The anger, the distance, the bragging, it stops feeling personal. You realize it was never about you, it was always about them. And in that clarity, empathy sneaks in. Not the shallow kind that says, "I get it," but the kind that comes from grief, the kind that knows how hard it is to be human. You start to see not arrogance, but fear, not coldness, but exhaustion, Not cruelty, but pain disguised as armor. Final reflection. Reading people isn't about judgment. It's about compassion. Because once you see clearly, resentment fades. Manipulation loses power, and your own defenses start to fall. The paradox is this: the more deeply you see others, the less you feel the need to protect yourself. You no longer confuse noise for truth or performance for identity. You understand that most people aren't dangerous, they're just scared. And in that moment, you stop standing against people. You start standing with them. Because the greatest strength was never in being unreadable. It was in being seen, fully, deeply, and still being chosen.